Hello gentle listeners, and welcome back to episode 16 of Whispers of the Past. I'm your host, Josh, and today I'm taking you back to a place we have already visited once, ancient Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization itself, for the story of the king of Uruk, who was part god, part man, and entirely unforgettable. His name? Gilgamesh. Over 4,000 years ago, one of humanity's oldest stories, the Epic of Gilgamesh, was etched into clay tablets, preserving a tale of adventure, friendship, and the quest for immortality. Let me set the scene and paint you a picture of the city of Uruk, its towering stone walls standing strong, glinting beneath the sun, and the Euphrates River flowing alongside, bringing life to its people. This wasn't merely a city, it was a marvel of ancient engineering. Within Uruk's walls lay grand temples, bustling marketplaces, and lush gardens teeming with colour. For the people who lived there, Uruk was the peak of human achievement, a city that embodied the power and beauty of civilization. But to those same people, Gilgamesh, their king, was a source of both pride and suffering. Gilgamesh was a towering figure, 2/3 god and 1/3 man, a blend that gave him unmatched strength, but left him with human flaws. With boundless energy and an insatiable thirst for power, he ruled with a heavy hand and thought himself invincible. To him, the city was his to command, and he used his strength as he saw fit. It's no wonder then that the people cried out to the gods for relief from his iron grip. Hearing their pleas, the gods devised a solution. The creator of mankind in this story, the goddess Aruru, shaped a man called Enkidu as a counterpart for Gilgamesh. Enkidu was made from the clay of the earth, his spirit wild, and his strength comparable to Gilgamesh's own. Enkidu roamed freely across the plains, a man in harmony with animals and nature. He ran with gazelles, drank from the rivers, and was, in many ways, untouched by civilization. His presence brought peace to the wilderness, but it also posed a challenge to the order of man, as he would release animals from traps that hunters set. When Gilgamesh was told rumors of this formidable, untamed man roaming and subjugating the wilderness by a hunter, he knew he would need someone of extraordinary talents to usher him to civilized Uruk, and so he sent Shamhat. This temple priestess was revered not only for her beauty, but for her wisdom and knowledge of the ways of the city. Shamhat set off from Uruk to fulfill her king's request, and travelled deep into the wilderness to find and meet Enkidu. She eventually found him by a watering hole, where he mingled with the animals, free from human rules and customs. She approached slowly, her presence both foreign and alluring, and Enkidu, who had never encountered anyone like her, was captivated. Over several days, Shamhat showed Enkidu the life he had been missing. She introduced him to human customs, starting with simple acts. She taught him to eat bread, a staple of human sustenance, and to drink beer, a drink that symbolized community and celebration. Each new experience pulled him a step further from the wild, and, with every lesson, Shamhat revealed new aspects of human life, the joys, the bonds, and even the sorrows. She spoke to him of temples, sacred rituals, and the strength of community, regaling him with stories which opened Enkidu's eyes, beginning to see a world beyond only survival and her guidance. Enkidu felt himself transforming. His rugged nature softened, his feral instincts gradually gave way to thoughts and feelings he had never known. He became increasingly aware of the plight of the ordinary people, their struggles and burdens, and, for the first time, a sense of compassion stirred within him. As their time together passed, his bond with the animals weakened, and he no longer felt as though he belonged to them. Enkidu, once a wild creature of the earth, was now ready to stand as a man. During his time with Shamhat, Enkidu was told stories of Gilgamesh and how he had never met a man stronger than himself. She told Enkidu that Gilgamesh would know in his dreams that he is coming. She also told Enkidu of how Gilgamesh ruled harshly, driving his people to exhaustion and taking whatever he desired without care for their well-being. Now, with a new sense of purpose and a deeper understanding of human hardship, Enkidu felt compelled to confront this tyrant king, to challenge Gilgamesh, who had seemingly forgotten his own humanity. As Shamhat guided him back towards the city, Enkidu's resolve only deepened. He was no longer the untamed creature who once ran freely alongside gazelles, drinking from rivers and knowing nothing of human strife. Now, he felt the burden of responsibility, the sense that he could protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Enkidu had become more than a man of the wilderness. He had become a champion for the people, a force of nature ready to face the mighty Gilgamesh and to remind him of his duty as a king. When Enkidu finally arrived in Uruk, he was awestruck by the city's towering walls, grand temples, and busy streets. This was a place unlike any he'd known. But he also sensed an undercurrent of fear. The people whispered about their king, Gilgamesh, whose strength and ambition cast a shadow over their lives. When the two men finally crossed paths, the air was thick with tension. Gilgamesh saw in Enkidu a challenger, someone strong enough to defy him, and Enkidu recognized the powerful ruler he'd come to confront. The clash was fierce, a battle of raw power and determination as they grappled in the streets of Uruk, neither one willing to yield. Onlookers watched, captivated, as the two men fought with equal strength and intensity, each testing the other. When the struggle finally ended, both were exhausted, yet something unexpected had emerged from their battle, a deep respect. In that moment, they recognized each other as equals, each completing what the other lacked, like two halves of the same soul. This friendship marked the beginning of Gilgamesh's transformation. With Enkidu by his side, he found purpose beyond conquest. Together, they decided to seek out great deeds that would etch their names into eternity. And so, they set their sights on the legendary Cedar Forest, a mystical place where gods tread, and where the feared monster, Humbaba, guarded the sacred trees. The Cedar Forest was no ordinary forest. It was said to be dense with trees that reached the sky, filled with divine energy. The journey itself was treacherous, and as they approached the forest, Gilgamesh began to feel an unfamiliar sensation: fear. But Enkidu reassured him, reminding him of their strength and courage. And when they finally faced Humbaba, the earth trembled and the sky seemed to darken. Humbaba was not just a creature, he was an ancient force, as old as the earth itself, with a voice like thunder and eyes that burned with fire. They fought with a desperation that matched Humbaba's fury. In the end, it was Enkidu who convinced Gilgamesh to finish the monster. There was a part of Gilgamesh that hesitated, sensing that this act might have dire consequences. But with one final blow, they defeated Humbaba and claimed victory. They thought they'd conquered fate itself. Little did they know, they'd set themselves on a path of tragedy. When they returned to Uruk, their fame spread across the lands, and it was then that Gilgamesh caught the eyes of the goddess Ishtar. The goddess of love and war was captivated by his strength, and she offered him her hand in marriage. But Gilgamesh, perhaps emboldened by his recent victories, refused her. He knew her reputation. She was mercurial, her love as fleeting as spring rains, her vengeance legendary. Gilgamesh's rejection enraged Ishtar, and her fury was swift. She called down the Bull of Heaven, a monstrous creature that caused earthquakes and drought wherever it went. The bull rampaged through Uruk, threatening to destroy everything Gilgamesh had sworn to protect. But, together, Gilgamesh and Enkidu faced the bull in a brutal battle. Once again, they triumphed, but this victory only deepened the god's wrath, especially Ishtar's. As punishment, the gods decreed that one of them must die. It was Enkidu whom they chose. His health faded slowly, his once great strength diminished, and Gilgamesh was helpless to save him. Enkidu's death plunged Gilgamesh into despair. This was his friend, his companion, the one who had taught him to be more than just a ruler. And in his grief, Gilgamesh confronted a reality he had long ignored, the inevitability of death. Haunted by the fear of death, Gilgamesh set out on a desperate quest to escape mortality and find Udnaptism, the only man granted eternal life. Leaving behind Uruk and all he knew, he journeyed through lands beyond his wildest imagination. He crossed scorching deserts, climbed the treacherous peaks of the mountain of Mashu, and endured trials that would have broken any other man. At last, Gilgamesh reached Utnaptism, who had been granted immortality after surviving a great flood, a story that echoed across cultures, from Mesopotamia to the biblical tale of Noah. The gods had rewarded Utnaptism with eternal life, a gift Gilgamesh longed for, but Utnaptism had warned him that the path to immortality was far from simple. So, to test his resolve, he challenged Gilgamesh to remain awake for 7 days. Exhausted from his journey, Gilgamesh failed almost immediately, succumbing to sleep. Even so, he offered him one last hope, a miraculous plant that could restore youth. Grasping this chance, Gilgamesh seized the plant, determined to bring it back to Uruk and share its power. Yet, fate had other plans. As he rested beside a river, a serpent stole the plant, slipping into the water and vanishing, leaving Gilgamesh empty-handed. And in that moment, he understood the fragility of life and the limits even the greatest king could not overcome. In that moment, Gilgamesh was forced to confront the truth he'd been running from. His journey had brought him face to face with gods, monsters, and the limits of his own power. But he was still mortal. He returned to Uruk empty-handed, yet with a newfound understanding. As he looked upon the walls of his city, he saw not just stone, but the legacy he had helped build. For the first time, Gilgamesh realized that his immortality would not be found in living forever, but in the impact he had on his people and his kingdom. The walls of Uruk, his deeds, and his story would endure long after his death. Gilgamesh had sought to conquer death, but had instead found the meaning of life. One of Gilgamesh's lesser-known feats was a test of his ingenuity. During his travels to find Utnaptism, Gilgamesh encountered a series of riddles and obstacles laid out by a cunning river deity, meant to keep mortals away from the sacred river of wisdom. To reach it, Gilgamesh had to solve these ancient puzzles, deciphering the deity's riddles while navigating treacherous waters. Each answer revealed pieces of wisdom that would shape him, yet also deepen his realization of human limitations. In another feat during his journey, Gilgamesh confronted a terrible beast known as the Night Stalker, a creature that haunted travelers in the desert, known for its relentless attacks under the cover of darkness. Gilgamesh ventured alone into the barren sands, luring the creature with the glow of his torch, and after a fierce battle, he defeated it, and he offered its carcass to the gods as a tribute, hoping it would earn him favor on his path to immortality. During his journey to Mashu, Gilgamesh also stumbled upon an ancient, hidden garden. There, he saw fruit that shimmered with an ethereal glow, food of the gods, guarded by an ancient spirit. It was said that a single bite of a fruit would grant knowledge, but also a deeper awareness of one's own mortality. Though tempted, Gilgamesh refrained, aware now that certain mysteries were meant to remain untouched. Another tale recounts his encounter with Siduri, a wise alewife who lived near the edge of the world. Siduri tried to warn Gilgamesh that his quest was futile, advising him instead to embrace life's simple joys. Her words stayed with him, a quiet echo reminding him of the life he was leaving behind. Yet, driven by grief and fear, Gilgamesh pressed on, even as he sensed the truth in her wisdom. In his final days, as he stood once more atop the walls of Uruk, Gilgamesh remembered the advice of those he had met along his journey, Enkidu's companionship, Udnaptism's wisdom, Siduri's counsel. All these moments had taught him the value of life itself. He looked over Uruk, no longer as a king, but as a man, understanding now that the path to true immortality was in the memories and lives he touched along the way. And so, the legacy of Gilgamesh lives on, reminding us that true strength lies not in defying death, but in finding purpose and leaving a mark on the world around us. Thank you for joining me on this week's episode of Whispers of the Past. If you enjoyed it, then please subscribe and send me a review or suggestion for future episodes to whispersofthepast@gmail.com. I'm your host Josh, and I hope you'll join us again in the future. See you next time.